Hey, so glad you're with us for the Monday edition of the Martini Lunch. It is taking every ounce of my resolve here, Jim, not to make the good martini the first place Chicago Bears in the NFC North. For the last several weeks, they have worked some sort of magic to beat really bad teams in the last few seconds, sometimes giving away the lead, sometimes coming back from behind. But I'll take it. We got a lot of hard games coming up, and we'll see if we keep the thing going here. But playing relevant games in November, pretty fun.
Greg, I salute you. I congratulate you. I good for you and all the Chicago Bear fans out there. I just want to note, though, that I'm in a chat group with a couple of Washington Commanders fans. And for a long time, the Commanders stunk and the Jets stunk. And so when the Commanders were good last year and made the playoffs, it felt kind of like you're all in prison and one of your buddies gets let out early. And you're kind of like, you're happy for him and her, but you're kind of like, so mixed feeling. Good for you, Greg. Good for you. I hope to join you someday. But I've got more years on my sentence, apparently.
Yeah, unfortunately, we still got 7 more games to go. We'll see if it continues. But yeah, we're going to be talking today about James Carville going further and further left. He's actually said this before, but he's talking about the second that Democrats complete the sweep in 2028. He just assumes that part's going to happen, that they're going to immediately stack the Supreme Court to 13 justices. Graham Plattner's on board with that, too. So if you're James Carville, there's no place you'd rather be than in agreement with Graham Plattner. And then, of course, in the bad martini, Jim has written today in the Morning Jolt about Olivia Nuzzi's new book, forthcoming book, whatever it is, talking about her affair, not physical, but emotional, digital affair with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. after she covered him as an independent presidential candidate last year. But we're going to start, of course, in just a minute with President Trump flipping and supporting now the move to release all of the Epstein files that the DOJ has. So, Jim, lot to get to today.
Some days you can just tell it's a Monday, and this is one of them.
All right. Well, in addition to the Bears, we got other good news, and that is if you want to get control of your money, you can do that, and there's a lot of different ways to do it. You might think you already have a solid handle on your budget, maybe even have a spreadsheet that says, hey, you should be saving a lot of money each month. But Rocket Money helps you actually track every dollar, uncover hidden spending, and take control of your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you actually can grow your savings.
Rocket Money will show you all of your expenses in one place, including subscriptions you may have forgotten about. And if you see a subscription you no longer want, Rocket Money will help you cancel it. Their dashboard lays out your entire financial picture, including bill due dates and paydays. And as you mentioned, Rocket Money will even try to negotiate lower bills for you. The app automatically scans your bills to find opportunities to save, and they'll even talk to customer service so that you don't have to.
That sounds pretty good. Rocket Money has saved users more than $2.5 billion, including more than $880 million in canceled subscriptions alone. Those things really do add up. Their 10 million members save up to $740 per year when they use all of the app's premium features. Now, you can cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/martini today. That's rocketmoney.com/martini. All right, Jim. The President of the United States has changed his position on the release of the Epstein files. Of course, he campaigned on releasing them in the beginning of the administration. They said they were going to release everything they had. Turns out when they gave the binders to the influencers, that wasn't everything. And then all of a sudden, in the summertime, Pam Bondi said, there's really nothing else to see here. There was no trafficking. There's no list. So this is all going to go away. And the American people just said, no, we're not going to let this go away. This has been hanging out there forever, and we just don't believe that there's nothing to see here. And so then the Democrats in the House started this discharge petition. With the election of the new congresswoman in Arizona, they got to 218. Looks like it was going to pass, which means then a lot more people, especially on the Republican side, were going to vote for it because you don't want to be stuck looking like you're hiding something related to Jeffrey Epstein. And so as a result of that, President Trump, with a lengthy Truth Social post saying, quote, as I said on Friday night aboard Air Force One to the fake news media, House Republicans should vote to release the Epstein files because we have nothing to hide. And it's time to move on from this Democrat hoax perpetrated by radical left lunatics in order to deflect from the great success of the Republican Party, including our recent victory on the Democratic shutdown. The Department of Justice has already turned over tens of thousands of pages to the public on Epstein, are looking at various Democrat operatives, Bill Clinton, Reid Hoffman, Larry Summers, etc., and their relationship to Epstein. And the House Oversight Committee can have whatever they are legally entitled to. I don't care. All I do care about is that Republicans get back on point, which is the economy, affordability, where we are winning big, our victory on reducing inflation from the highest level in history to practically nothing, and on it goes. And so, Jim, since he's for it now, I'm not even sure we need a vote. He could just have Pam Bondi do it. I don't know exactly how that works, but what do you make of the 11th hour change here?
Well, first of all, let's also note that this petition is for calling upon the Department of Justice to publicly disclose all unclassified records, documents, communications, and investigative materials in its possession that relate to Jeffrey Epstein or Ghislaine Maxwell. Now, as listeners probably know, Maxwell is serving 20-some years in federal prison, but she recently moved from, I believe, a medium security level, which was kind of standard for anyone involved in sex trafficking, to a minimum security one. And there are various reports that this prison is much, much nicer. She also was interviewed by the Deputy Attorney General during the interview, and you can see that the DOJ did put out the transcript of the interview. She said Trump never did anything wrong. Trump was never associated with any of these things. And, for all we know, she's telling the truth. However, when she does that and then immediately gets transferred to a much nicer prison, I don't think it's unreasonable to say, was there some sort of connection there? I think a lot of people wonder what would we find in these Department of Justice things, documents. The other thing that's kind of clear about this is the message from the White House up until Trump's Truth Social post was Trump did nothing wrong. There's absolutely nothing in any of these documents that would indicate that President Trump ever did anything wrong in all of his time of knowing Epstein. And no, you can't see them. And that just did not add up. Again, I don't know what's in these documents, but they're certainly and the fact when they brought Lauren Boebert, the Colorado Congresswoman, Republican, and briefed her in the Situation Room. Now, I know they're doing some remodeling over at the White House. I know that some of the whole East Wing's not available anymore for these sorts of, but in the Situation Room, usually we're thinking of foreign crises and stuff like that. And FBI Director Kash Patel and Attorney General Bondi were in that meeting and emphasizing to Boebert why it was so important that the House not vote to have these documents released. Which again, certainly, I think it's reasonable to say that looks like you have something to hide. Now, presumably we're going to have this vote. Presumably everything is going to get released. And we will see where the chips fall. I do think it was very, very odd and a weird thing, and I wrote about this in the Washington Post today. Marjorie Taylor Greene led the charge on this and got a lot of grief from the president and gave a lot of grief back. And, as a result, you could argue that either Trump, first of all, is doing this is the right thing. I think more information is better than that. It mentions no classified documents. If you need to redact the victims' names, I think that's entirely reasonable. Take precautions. I also keep hearing when I put this out there, Greg, we can't do this because other people who are wealthy and associated with Epstein may have their names out there and they may have some reputational damage. Boo-hoo. There are certain problems in life that I can relate to. When Marco Rubio's wife, the New York Times ran that hit piece about her having a bunch of speeding tickets. Mrs. Rubio, I've been there. Who among us has not driven too fast? Parking tickets, minor tax issues. There are a lot of mistakes. There are a lot of things that politicians can do that are bad that the public is going to forgive. Hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein, look, we don't relate to that. We do not know. Oh, it turns out this guy I hung around with a lot turned out to be a notorious sex trafficker. That's not something to relate to. So I kind of feel like if you hung around with Epstein for a long time, and you say, I never had any idea. I mean, some of these people in contact with after he pled guilty to a sex trafficking related crime. So it was entirely I don't believe you when you say you had no idea any of this was going on. But anyway, it's good that it's coming out. It's very good the president is not forcing House Republicans to take what would have been an excruciatingly difficult vote to say, no, let's not release this. The public does not have a right to know when at least half of them were campaigning on, yes, we've got to release the Epstein files. That's what makes this just so mind-boggling here. So, look, let's get the information out there. And I'm glad the president has this position. Don't understand why he had to be dragged kicking and screaming to this position, but I'm glad he's here. And in a very weird way, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who still the crazy person who believes in Jewish space lasers and false flag mass shootings and all kinds of other stuff, stood her ground on this and appears to have won a showdown with President Trump.
Just to clarify one thing you said there, Jim, is there not classified material, or we're just not going to see the classified material?
That's a good question. And a lot of people have speculated about whether Epstein was a foreign intelligence agent of some kind. As far as I know, no definitive proof has come along these things, but I think they put that in there to say, if you say release everything, and the Department of Justice can say, well, some of this information is classified, we can't just release it. And I think it's meant to avoid. Clearly, I'd be very curious about if they are, if they say, it goes from page 32 to 64. What's missing in those empty? Oh, those pages are classified. Well, then we will know that there's more to this story and that there's an angle that needs to be brought to light. I don't buy into the conspiracy theories that Epstein was some sort of U.S. intelligence asset. I think the U.S. intelligence community, for all of its flaws, is not going to go whole hog into sex trafficking as a way of getting leverage over powerful people. I know that a whole bunch of Alex Jones types buy into that. So we'll see what happens. But I'm glad that you jumped onto that word, because it does seem interesting. And yet, maybe Epstein did have contact with foreign officials. Maybe this did end up being, scooped up by our NSA listening or something like that. We'll only know when this stuff comes out.
Exactly. And now that both sides want it out, it makes me think that most of what we get will probably not be as salacious as everyone expects, but you never know. So release it all.
Well, if it's not that salacious, okay.
Let it go. Yeah. Release it all. Let the chips fall where they may. And if there's more to come, then, get ready to declassify, I say. But hopefully we'll get to the full story as much as can be told as soon as possible. And this is a good step in that direction. All right. Well, let's talk about your health and your reluctance to actually go see the doctor, because you're not the only one, whether it's just your regular dental cleaning, your annual checkup. I'm not feeling that bad. Yeah, I got a little pain here and there, but it's not a big deal. I'm not going to spend all day driving and spending money on this. No, if you need a doctor, ZocDoc is the way to go. ZocDoc is a free app and website where you can search and compare high-quality in-network doctors and click to instantly book an appointment.
With ZocDoc, you can book in-network appointments with more than 100,000 doctors across every specialty of medical care, from mental health to dental health, from primary care to urgent care, and more. And you can filter for doctors that take your insurance, see if they're located nearby, see if they're a good fit for any medical need you might have, and see if they're highly rated by verified patients. And once you find the right doctor, you can see their actual appointment openings, choose the time slot that works for you, and click to instantly book a visit.
Yeah, Jim and I both use ZocDoc. Mine was for a specialist in ENT. I couldn't stand the one I had before. Got recommended one by a friend, read the reviews, figured out this is exactly the type of person that I want to be dealing with. And so stop putting off those doctor's appointments and go to ZocDoc.com/3ML to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. That's ZocDoc.com/3ML. ZocDoc.com/3ML. All right, Jim, on to our bad martini now, and this is the subject of today's Morning Jolt. Olivia Nuzzi is back in the news, and it's her relationship with now HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. that is the subject of this book. She was covering him as an independent presidential candidate in 2024 after he dropped out of the Democratic primary, when that was pretty much being rigged against him, to be honest. But then it turned into something more than a candidate-reporter relationship. Allegedly nothing physical, but very much an affair over texting and other ways of communication that way. And then, of course, RFK Jr., I think, cut it off, and then it got exposed, and Nuzzi had been engaged, and that broke up, and then obviously it hasn't been probably the easiest time for RFK Jr. and his wife Cheryl Hines. But Jim, I think I'm taking away the main focus of your Morning Jolt today is that when you're a journalist, there are certain guardrails you're supposed to stay in between. Some people get a little fuzzy with those guardrails, and some people leap over them and just go wherever they want to, and that's what happened here.
Don't send nudes of yourself to your interview subjects. It's a rule I've always lived by, Greg. I've also never. Every once in a while somebody wants some, but I say no, that would be wrong. So a bunch of people reacted to today's Morning Jolt like, Jim, this is so tawdry. How are you writing about this? Okay, look, don't think it's not really about Olivia Nuzzi, right? Although I do think that, like I said, this New York Times article about her, like, it's designed to make you feel sympathetic. I think it's very glowing. It's very positive. It's very sympathetic about this tragic love story, right? And I read it and I'm like, oh my God, this woman is a nut job, like front to back, top to bottom, from the extremities deep to the core. And it's not really so much about her. It's about the fact that someone decided she should get a book deal. I have no idea about the size of the book deal, but somebody decided that her telling her side of the story was worthy of a book deal. The New York Times decided that sending out this reporter to talk to her, and by the way, like, there's at least like 5 very glamorous photos of her to go with this profile, and a short little video of her driving with the hair blowing and the wind and all that stuff at the top of, like, this is a very sympathetic, glamorous profile picture of her. And the other thing is, and this is the part where I felt like, okay, this is worthy of the morning newsletter. Back when it comes out that she's had this emotional affair, non-physical sexting affair with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. She's, Eve Beatty of the magazine Vanity Fair writes, quote, "The reports regarding Nuzzi, which Kennedy has neither confirmed nor denied, come at a dangerous time for the mainstream media, the credibility of which has increasing attacks in recent years." No kidding. We've been some of those attackers. "It does not help that pop culture depictions of real journalists suggest that unprofessional relationships are stock in trade. As the American media faces a whole new level of distrust and attacks, the ethical line between journalist and subject should not be more important to keep clear." That was about a year ago in the magazine Vanity Fair. Hey, Greg, guess what Nuzzi's doing these days?
Working for Vanity Fair.
Working for Vanity Fair. In September, she was named Vanity Fair as the West Coast editor. Now, I don't know if Eve Beatty is still there. I think Eve Beatty was completely right when she wrote this back in 2024. I don't get how Vanity Fair looks at her and says, yes, this is, never mind a reporting gig, never mind freelancing, this is our new West Coast editor. This is, we have taken someone and we are rewarding her. And she did really, really bad behavior. And again, there's some people, we stopped worrying about adultery back in the Bill Clinton time. Okay, I don't buy into that, but fine. It's still very bad to be in a to have a presidential candidate who says he loves you and that you're sexting with, and you're still writing about Biden and Trump and then Trump and Kamala Harris. Because you have a very vested interest in the guy who's saying he wants to possess you and all these other really weird things at RFK. Let's also point out that according to Nuzzi, she describes him taking an illegal drug, right? This is, which is the DMT, dimethylatriptamine, which is a powerful drug, which it's the active ingredient in when you do ayahuasca. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Aaron Rodgers, yeah.
What's that? Yeah. So here's the thing. You should not take ayahuasca. It is a powerful hallucinogen. The only circumstance you should do so is if you're quarterback of the New York Jets. At that point, I understand you need that. It's referring to Aaron Rodgers, who's now the quarterback for the Steelers, although I guess he's, possibly injured. But I don't think the Secretary of Health and Human Services should be doing illegal drugs. And that would be bad. Hey, Drug Enforcement Agency, I got a hot tip for you. All right, just down the street over at HHS. So I don't think Robert F. Kennedy is a good choice to be HHS secretary for a whole bunch of reasons. High among them, he does not know the difference between which one is Medicaid and which one is Medicare. The vaccine stuff. But here's the thing. I think doing powerful hallucinogens is a sign you should not be running a major cabinet department. Never mind one that controls like $1 out of every $4 the federal government spends. Now, okay, could she be making this up? I suppose, but it's not like you can look at Kennedy with his, eating bear meat and the brain worm and all that stuff. Oh, he wouldn't do something like that. No, he's a man of strength. He's a Kennedy, by golly. And if there's anything we've learned about the Kennedys is they treat their women really well. I suppose, I won't even make a Chappaquiddick joke, but you listeners, you know where my mind's going with this. So I just kind of feel like, even if you say, I don't care about Olivia Nuzzi, fine. I'm not saying you have to. I am saying you live in the media environment where not just one or two yahoos, but the book publisher, the New York Times, and Vanity Fair have all chosen to reward her. And the interesting thing is, at least I have not read the book. I'm not really interested in reading the book. But like the excerpts and the description you get in that New York Times article, I don't know if Olivia Nuzzi feels like she did anything wrong. Like, to her, this is a tragic love story. This is the sort of thing Taylor Swift sings about. And that's psycho. And I kind of like, like, why, as I say at the beginning of the Jolt, if you cover politics, if you're involved in politics, there's a good chance you're going to run into a crazy person. Politics attracts crazy people. I fear, Greg, that enough crazy people are now in our political system that sane people are like, I don't want to deal with this. And they go and they do other stuff with their lives. They don't want to get involved in politics. And if you're like, how do we end up with such a freak show as candidates? Well, this is it. Like, the crazy people have driven out the sane people. So anyway, bad job, New York Times. Bad job, book publisher. Bad job, Vanity Fair. And I just feel like somebody should say, this is crazy. And I know people are upset I didn't write, but I wrote about Syria on Friday. Like, I think I'm entitled to write about, lighter, fluffier stuff sometimes.
Yeah, just a couple of thoughts. First of all, I think when it comes to the mainstream media, it doesn't matter how crazy you are. If people think you're going to bring clicks or eyeballs or whatever it is, they'll roll the dice on you, at least for a while, until the crazy just damages your reputation too much. Also, if you see the book and you keep hearing newsy, this has nothing to do with Christian Bale or a musical about delivering papers in the turn of the 1900s. And lastly, how long till we get a podcast called The Asylum involving Olivia Nuzzi and Taylor Lorenz?
Oh, man.
Did I just make them millionaires? I don't know. Maybe I did.
Probably not. Because there's this idea of I get the idea of these people want attention. You can say the same thing about Nick Fuentes. You can say the same thing about a whole bunch of other, controversy courting, content managers. And part of this is that social media algorithms have prioritized controversy. Better to be controversial and getting a lot of reaction than to be sensible and sane and normal and get zero reaction. But I do kind of feel like at the same time, when something is bad, somebody should stand up and say, this is bad. So,
right.
That's what I did today. And of course, a lot of readers are very upset about this. They found the villain in the story. It's me for writing about it.
Yes, you noticed it. That's always the problem. All right, well, let's talk about something much better than the mindset of Olivia Nuzzi or RFK Jr., and that is dose. Look, your liver does a lot of work. It's doing 500 functions or more every single day, filtering unwanted elements, supporting digestion, helping with energy, but we never think about it really until something's wrong, and then it might be really wrong. But what if we actually supported the liver before the problems started? Well, that's where Dose for Your Liver comes in. It's a clinically backed liver liquid health supplement. It's taken in a daily 2-ounce shot, and it even tastes great like fresh squeezed orange juice. It cleanses the liver of unwanted stressors, 0 sugar, 0 junk, 0 calories.
Greg, reading and writing about figures like this drives me to drink, which is not good for my liver. So what can you expect when you're drinking Dose daily? Well, you're going to reduce your sluggishness. You're going to get rid of those midday crashes. You're going to support your metabolism, and it can even aid your daily digestion. It's got real results with 2 double-blind, placebo-controlled studies showing a positive impact on liver enzyme levels.
So are you ready to give your liver the support it deserves? Head to dosedaily.co/3ml or enter 3ml to get 35% off the first month of your subscription. Your body does so much for you. Let's do something for it. That's dosedaily.co/3ml for 35% off your first month's subscription. All right, Jim, on to our crazy martini now. And James Carville, it's The Economist, stupid, from 1992. He's been kind of gliding on that for the last 30-plus years. But nonetheless, he's usually still entertaining. But in the Trump era, he's gotten much more maniacal and fanatical about the threat that he thinks is happening and, the need for Democrats. That they've got to win. They've got to win. So he was on a podcast with his old friend Al Hunt from the Capitol Gang days. And Carville is saying, well, and I know that Democrats are going to win in 2028, White House, House, Senate. And guess what's going to happen as soon as they have power? Maybe even in the transition before they have power.
And they're going to recommend that the number of Supreme Court justices go from 9 to 13. That's going to happen, people. That's going to happen to you. They're going to win. They're going to do some blue ribbon panel of distinguished jurists. And they are going to recommend 13, and a Democratic Senate and House. They're going to pass it, and the Democratic president is going to sign it because they have to do an intervention so we can have a Supreme Court that the American people trust again.
We have to have a Supreme Court the American people trust again, so we're going to pack it with 4 libs. That'll really bring America together in believing that the court is legit. So he's got some interesting bedfellows on this, including Senate candidate Graham Plattner over at Free Beacon. They say that he's all for stacking the Supreme Court. Oh, and impeaching 2 of the existing justices. Quote, we're going to have to start treating the Supreme Court like the political action wing that it has become of conservatism, he said. It's not functioning as a constitutional body. I'm a supporter of stacking the court. I'm also a supporter of, the Senate can write its own rules. I firmly believe if we held Supreme Court justices to the same standard that we hold other federal judges, there's a compelling case for the impeachment and removal of at least 2 justices. And he thinks that would happen if he were elected in 2026. In 2027 with a Republican president, he thinks all that would happen. So he clearly doesn't understand how the system works. But Jim, the left lost its mind with Trump, but it's possible they've lost their mind even more, that they know they can't rely on decisions going their way from the Supreme Court. It's amazing.
So, Greg, I was going to start out by being snarky and say, wow, Al Hunt is still alive. But I looked it up. Al Hunt is 82 and Carville is 81. So as much as I'd like to make fun of these guys for being old, one, they're not in elected office. So that's my real beef these days. So good for these guys for at least still being kicking and semi-coherent. 2, Greg says we can't get the music. So every time you hear Graham Plattner on this podcast, I'm just going to hum bum 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 the Indiana Jones Nazi theme. Greg, you said, you read aloud what Plattner said. I believe it's more, I am a supporter of stacking the court. I know nothing. So, by the way, like stacking the court, like he's not even using the pleasant restoring democracy. No, we must staff the court. For those who don't get it, this is a reference to his tattoo that he got, 18 years ago, that we accidentally got the Totenkopf's death's head symbol of the Nazi SS. Totally didn't recognize it, even though he's a history buff, he says, and accidentally got it and also accidentally kept it for 18 years. And only a short while ago, never mind the fact that one of his former campaign staffers said that I have a tattoo that might be problematic because it's for the SS. But anyway, look, one of the interesting things about our friends on the other side of the aisle is that pretty much since Trump became the Republican nominee, they've argued that democracy is at stake. The Constitution is at stake. Our very system of government is at stake. And therefore, we must stack the court. Therefore, we must completely break everything we've done before. Therefore, we must make Puerto Rico a state. We must start adding states willy-nilly. We must start breaking up states to make bigger states. We must, we must eliminate the Electoral College. We must, in order to save the Constitution, we need to either completely rewrite it or we need to ignore it and all that stuff. We already did the court stacking thing back in the 1930s. And FDR, who was not exactly an unpopular figure, right? He was real popular. It took a generation for Republicans to come back. But even on this point, the American people are like, nope, sorry, you can't do that. That is a bad idea. If FDI at the height of his powers could not convince the American people that this is a good idea. Secondly, look at these polls and say, do you support a Democratic president adding 2 to 4 or however many Supreme Court justices they have? Ask people if they think that's a good idea. They're not going to say it's a good idea because they recognize what that is that we're losing. So we need to be able to add more people and we're going to impeach 2 more justices because we need to, throw that in there. First of all, you can try to impeach. You're not going to succeed, but okay. Now, he said this is all their dream scenario. If Democrats win the presidency, I think you'd probably say it's like a 50-50 shot, If they win the House, now here's the good news is the House is very close. There's been a whole bunch of redistricting back and forth. I think everybody would say that 2026, it's either a jump ball. If the economy's bad, there's a good chance Democrats get the House. And then there's the Senate, right? Now it's 53-47. We don't know how the Senate races are going to shake out. There's been a bunch of cases where Republicans have not gotten the candidates they wanted to recruit. Democrats did. But it's still going to be very tough. Still going to be rough 50-50. Oh, but they also want to get rid of the filibuster, which has been around forever. And every time they get rid of the filibuster, it comes back to bite them in the butt. And, people like Amy Klobuchar are like, maybe we shouldn't have done that. By the way, why did we have this government shutdown for the past 40 days and 40 nights in a biblical era? Oh, because of the filibuster, which it was a Jim Crow relic when Republicans were using it. Now it's okay. And then the moment Democrats get back a majority of the Senate again, they will decide that the filibuster that they used over and over again is a terrible thing and must be destroyed and all that kind of stuff. But remember, we need to make all of these changes in order to save democracy.
Yes.
In order to save democracy, we need to change the rules so that we never lose. That's not how it works, fellas.
Oh, that's insane. He's also talking about, changing the Senate because it's not fair. The California and North Dakota have the same number of senators. And so, they're literally trying to upend the whole thing. And so, but yeah, they're the ones preserving the system. By the way, Jim, I've got some good news for you. Politico reports that Emily's List did a poll in Maine, and without voters being informed of a lot of Graham Plattner's statements, he's losing to Susan Collins 51-42. When they're informed about his Reddit statements and so forth, he's losing by 19. They say if he provided a lengthy apology, he'd be losing by 14. Now, unfortunately, there's no polling here between Collins and Mills or Mills and Plattner in a primary here. But as of right now, for a guy that's gotten a lot of attention, so I think his name recognition is fairly high up there now, Susan Collins, at least on paper, is cleaning his clock. Long way to go, but still a good
Greg, don't get too confident. Because, yes, Susan Collins has won every race, and she's always strong against these Democratic challengers. But Plattner, he will launch a blitzkrieg attack. He will attack her.
That's right. Plattner, get ready. You're going to hear that for a long time.
That's right. As long as he's in this race, we're doing Nazi jokes. Until that, yeah.
Anyway, Jim, happy Monday. See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow, Greg.
Jim Garrity, National Review. I'm Greg Corombos of Radio America. Thanks so much for being with us today. Please be sure to subscribe to our podcast. If you don't already, tell your friends about us as well. Thanks also for your 5-star ratings and your kind reviews. Please keep those coming. Get us on your home devices. All you have to say is play 3 Martini Lunch podcast. Follow us both on X. He's at Jim Garrity. I'm at Greg Corombos. And now, Instagram and Facebook too. Have a great day. Join us again Tuesday for the next 3 Martini Lunch.